dear participants, dear journalists, dear audience of our live broadcast, we're starting our press conferences, which is about signing the Memorandum on Cooperation as part of the project Improving Living Conditions of Internally Displaced Persons in Eastern Ukraine. This project is carried out by the International Organization for Migration, which is a UN migration agency with support of the German government through the International Development Bank, German Development Bank, and the IOM is implementing this project in close cooperation with the Ministry for Reintegration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories, the City Council of Kramatorsk, and the Military Civil Administration of Severodonetsk. Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk we have direct contact with them, and they will also be able to put questions to our participants. Not to waste your time, I'm giving the floor over to the Deputy Minister for Reintegration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine, Mr. David Markaryan. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the signing of this long-expected memorandum to support people who have suffered from the conflict as a result of armed aggression of the Russian Federation. The Ministry of Reintegration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories is promoting new models to provide housing to the internally displaced persons. This project of international technical assistance, improving living conditions in eastern Ukraine, has been initiated by the IOM as well as by the Credit Authority of KfW, German bank. The project is to involve 22,100,000 euros. Its implementation is to last till 2025, and it should provide housing to about 1,500 IDPs. As part of this project, we plan to build 500 apartments and to purchase additionally 60 apartments in two cities, Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk. The Ministry of Reintegration, the Temporarily Occupied Territories, is directly interested in the use of this project and is ready to work as its coordinator. For this purpose, under our ministry, we plan to set up a supervisory board with participation of all the stakeholders. That's why I am very happy that starting tomorrow we will be able to say, after the memorandum is signed, the first steps will be taken to implement the project. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Makaryan. I'm giving the floor to the head of the IOM in Ukraine, Anna Nguyen.
Dear colleagues, partners,
Шановні колеги, партнери,
good afternoon and welcome.
Доброго дня і вітаю вас всіх.
It's a great
Для мене
honor
велика
and a
честь.
true pleasure
Мені
to be
дуже
here today
приємно
on the
бути тут
occasion of
сьогодні
this important
з нагоди
memorandum signing.
цього підписання важливого
It
меморандуму,
confirms our shared vision
який
and partnership and
підтверджує, що ми
importantly
маємо
paves the
спільне
way
бачення
to
і
the successful implementation of this
прокладає
project.
шлях до успішної реалізації цього
With
проєкту.
over 1.4 million
В
displaced
Україні з
persons since
2014 року більше
2014,
1,4
Ukraine has
мільйонів
become
ПО.
home to the
Україна
ninth
фактично
largest
дев'ятою за
internally
величиною
displaced
країни в
community
усьому
in the
світі
world.
щодо кількості ВПО.
And IOM's latest national monitoring system survey tells us that
Останнє опитування
60%
системи національного моніторингу МОН каже нам, що 60% людей живуть в найманих приміщеннях протягом 6 років, а 17% живуть зі своїми родинами.
We want to work towards a dignified and prosperous future for the conflict-affected communities, and we have no alternative but to complement our relief and recovery support with interventions that stem from the deep understanding and acknowledgement of the long-term impact of protracted displacement.
Цей п'ятирічний проект, який щедро фінансується урядом Німеччини через банк розвитку, продовжить нинішні зусилля уряду України, національних міжнародних учасників, які працюватимуть для того, щоб надати тривалі рішення для задоволення базових потреб потерпілих від конфлікту людей у постійному житлі. У співпраці з Міністерством реінтеграції тимчасово окупованих територій, у тісній співпраці з органами влади Краматорська, Сєвєродонецька, МОМ побудує та реконструює будинки, домівки для більше 500 родин ВПО. Буде розроблено також спеціальний механізм для тих, хто буде зацікавлений, щоб викупити ці квартири в приватну власність. Ця ідея певною мірою буде будуватися на моделі комунального житла, популярній у Західній Європі, яка надасть доступне за ціною та екологічне житло. Побудова нових багатоквартирних будинків в рамках нашого проекту представить надасть значний поштовх містобудуванню, надійшли позитивний соціоекономічний сигнал для всього регіону. Будуть дотримані стандарти найвищого рівня, включно з енергоефективністю та захистом довкілля. Дуже важливо для того, щоб забезпечити, що громади будуть власниками та рушійними силами цього процесу, МОМ буде підтримувати муніципалітети для того, щоб вони заснували прозорі системи для роботи, технічного обслуговування цих квартир і забезпечить довготривале житло на багато років. Цей процес є інтегрованим в широкомасштабний набір гуманітарних проєктів розвитку МОМ, зокрема через свої зв'язки з міжгалузевими програмами, включно з програмою підтримки життєзабезпечення, підприємств, розвитку ринку. І знову ж таки, я хотів би висловити мою вдячність уряду Німеччини та Банку розвитку KfW за те, що це стало можливим, і підкреслити ще раз, що МОМ залишається рішучим, щоб продовжити підтримувати громади України самовідданими зусиллями наших працівників. Я вважаю, що цей меморандум є наріжним каменем і частиною міцного партнерства, яке ми будуємо. І я хочу подякувати міністерству і органам влади Краматорська, Сєвєродонецька за високий рівень співпраці, який ми маємо сьогодні, за їхню всеохопну відданість таким сталим довгостроковим проектам. Thank you, Manguiem. We also have the coordinator of the housing program of the OIM, Mr. Konrad Klaas, who will be ready to answer your questions in the future. I'm giving the floor to the mayor of Kramatorsk, Mr. Andriy Pankov. Good morning, dear friends. I am very happy to be here today with you and to be able to say thank you for your such valuable support that you're giving us today in this very priority challenge that we're going to be discussing, which is improving living conditions of the internally displaced persons of Donbass that found themselves in dire living situation because of the beginning of the armed conflict. I'd like to give you some statistics. Today, the city of Kramatorsk has about 185,000 local residents, and 49,000 today, this is an official figure that is statistically correct, are the people who are internally displaced persons coming from the occupied territory. So you can imagine what a load we feel today upon the infrastructure of the city, including healthcare, schools, kindergartens. However, there are some positive things as well. Because of all the situation, the city of Kramatorsk has received quite a large number of well-qualified workers, especially as regards healthcare and education. And the second birth, we could see it for small and medium-sized businesses. For all those 5 years, we've been giving quite a lot of attention to this issue. We are concerned. We are doing whatever we can for those people who, as I say, have found themselves in this difficult situation. We're giving them our dormitories. We're thinking about how to provide them with housing, using our own housing capacities. Unfortunately, the city of Kramatorsk and its infrastructure were not ready to find ourselves in such a difficult situation because of the war. And of course, the housing capacity of Kramatorsk is inadequate in order to, we do not have a lot of free housing that we can just provide for the people who need it. That's why we are ready for cooperation for all this period. And thank you, Nguyen, because you have mentioned that in your speech. We're doing everything we can so that the project would be implemented. I'm sure it will be implemented through joint efforts with all the modern housing construction standards, energy efficiency, energy saving. So thank you once again for your support to the ministry and to the bank and to International Organization for Migration, of course, for your support that you're giving us. Thank you. Thank you, Andrei. I'm giving the floor to the chairman of the Civil Military Administration of Donetsk, Mr. Struch. I would also like to thank Nguyen, representatives of the IOM and the KfW Bank, because this project, I want to thank you because you have chosen the city of Severodonetsk to implement this project. I agree with my colleague. The city of Severodonetsk, just like Kramatorsk, has a very large social burden now, as we have such a large number of the IDPs, people who found themselves in this very difficult living situation. It's true that the housing capacity we have in our cities is outdated, and for the past several decades, very little housing construction has been carried out. The Civil Military Administration will do everything possible to implement this project because it is extremely important in the social dimension, and it can resolve quite a lot of problems, living problems of the population. And as it is accessible housing, affordable housing, this is a new area as to how people can get housing, and I think that will be the most effective way of solving their problems. Thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Struch. I would like to give the floor to the representative of the donor, senior project coordinator of the German Development Bank, KfW, Mr. Vitaly Shmeriga. Thank you, dear colleagues. On behalf of the Kiev office of KfW Bank, allow me to welcome you, to greet you on behalf of signing of this tripartite memorandum of cooperation. I would like to wish you a lot of success in implementing this project, the idea of which is to improve the living conditions of the IDPs. This project has been initiated by the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, and the project has been approved by the governments of Germany and Ukraine. At the moment, the government of Federal Republic of Germany, through the KfW Development Bank, is supporting in Ukraine and funding in Ukraine a whole number of projects related to the IDPs. And most important attention these projects is usually given to improving living conditions of the IDPs, because this is one of the most painful problems, one of the most relevant problems for the IDPs. We're especially happy that the International Organization of Migration was interested in the implementation of this project, because we, the KfW Bank in Ukraine, have quite a lot of positive experience of cooperation with the IOM, within the context of those projects, the objective of which is to support the internally displaced persons. Based on our previous experience, we have no doubts that this project will also be implemented in compliance with the best European and world practices. We're also very happy to see here today David Makarian, who represents the Ministry for Reintegration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories. And I would like to especially note that the Ministry for Reintegration, since the very beginning of its establishment, has been an active advocate of the projects of international technical assistance related to the IDPs, primarily creating proper living conditions. We receive most support from this ministry now among all the other ministries as the Development Bank. That's why we are very happy, and we hope that this cooperation between us and the ministry, as well as the International Organization for Migration, will lead to positive results in this project. I would also like to welcome the heads of the cities of Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk, because you've been selected for this project. I would like to thank you because you have become the communities that have hosted the IDPs in the most critical time for this country. And I'd like to know that a lot depends on your support, on your assistance, and your cooperation with the IOM. A lot of it depends on you in this project. The further use of the housing, its distribution, its maintenance, its use, all of it will be your task on your shoulders. So please pay attention as to how the IOM is implementing this project. Study positive modern experience. Adopt those new practices. And I want to very much say how much I hope that it will be a success, that in a couple of years, when the main part of this project will be over, we will gather here once again to discuss the positive outputs and results and the experience that can be used by other communities and cities in Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Shmiriga. And now please, those who are going to sign the memorandum, please exchange the papers. Thank you very much, and now we have some time for questions and answers. As it has been said, we already have Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk in direct contact with us, so it's the studio in Kramatorsk. You can ask your questions. The standard request is to introduce yourselves and to say who your question is for. The question is to the mayor of Kramatorsk, Andrei Pankov, as to how many people out of the IDPs that live in our city require improving of living conditions, and how many of them already have housing. Well, I've already given you some statistics. Today in Kramatorsk we have about 50,000 IDPs from the occupied territories. Since the beginning of the conflict in 2014, about 95,000 people turned to the social services of our city. So, as regards those who require housing, today there's about 140 applications from about 140 families, more than 350 persons. Over those 5 years, what the city has done, we have been able to provide housing to over 200 persons. We gave them our repaired, premises of our dormitories. So today, 137 applications is what I have, in our housing department. Thank you. Good afternoon, Kramatorsk, Radio Meridian. My question is to Andrei Pankov. Tell me, please, when the IDPs of Kramatorsk will be able to get the keys to their apartments? Well, probably it's not so much a question to me. Today we have signed the memorandum of cooperation. Now everything will depend on how quickly the project will be implemented and the funds are allocated. Everything that depends on the city, we're ready to provide all the technical documentation, the sites where those houses will be built, and all the necessary communication lines are there. Not far away from it, we have a heating station which would allow us, if the construction is quite active, to implement this project very quickly, and then we will start talking about how and on what conditions the keys to the apartments would be given to the people who need them. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have no more questions. Thank you, colleagues. Then we're giving the floor over to the studio in Severodonetsk. The first question is Angelika Fedorova to the representative of the International Organization for Migration. What is the procedure in which the apartments would be given to the people, and according to what principles?
Actually, I'd like to take this opportunity to also introduce you to our program coordinator, Mr. Conrad Klaus. And he's going to be overseeing, but also he has an experience not only as a civil engineer, but also over 15 years of development work. And so I'd like to introduce Conrad to
Thank you very much.
Дуже вам дякую.
We are at the moment working with our team on environmental and social
командою, яка займається
engagement
соціальними проектами
with the different communities in Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk. And for the conditions and who will receive the apartment and who will be eligible, this is something that will be worked out together with the municipality, but also very important for us, with the IDPs themselves. So it's not a decision that will be made by one single person.
Це не рішення, яке прийматиме одна людина чи одна організація.
An effort of all of us.
Нету ничего, выключил ты. Нет перевода.
У нас технічні проблеми з перекладом. Перепрошуємо.
Okay, sorry, I understand. I was a little bit too fast. Let me repeat my answer again. The selection of the actual tenants of the and beneficiaries of the housing program will not be done by a single organization. It is a collaborative effort between the ministry, the municipalities, but also the IDPs themselves. And this is something very important for us, to engage all relevant stakeholders in the selection of the criteria for the future tenants of the houses.
Дякуємо. Будь ласка, Сєвєродонецьк.
Thank you very much. Severodonetsk, do you have any more questions? Probably would like to once again put this question to the IOM. After 6 years of war, most IDPs in Severodonetsk are still facing lots of problems. If any apartments are given away, most are giving to the civil servants. Now, if I understand you correctly, once again we're talking about leasing, renting apartments rather than having their own apartments. Is there any chance that one day people who 6 years ago moved to Ukraine, believed in Ukraine, would get their own housing?
Yes, there will be the opportunity for people to actually also purchase their own apartments. But the different modalities on how they can directly purchase the apartments will be still elaborated, and it needs still quite a lot of work. And I also like to clarify that the apartments are not exclusively for civil servants. Basically, we will try to make sure that as many as possible people will have, from different backgrounds, will have access to these apartments. And we will work together with the ministry and the municipality to make these apartments as affordable as possible, but also to come up with a sustainable model, so that we cannot just build these apartments, but we will be also able to build more apartments in the future.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, then perhaps Severodonetsk, do you have any more questions? Thank you. No, we don't have any more questions. Thank you. Then a question from the media people present here in Kyiv. Do you have any questions to the participants of the press conference? Lada Tsurkan Dom TV channel. Please tell us, what is the period of the implementation of the project, whether building new housing or reconstruction of the old ones?
Термін побудови найближчий, коли буде завершено.
The overall implementation period of the project is 5 years. The construction period obviously is a little bit shorter. We have already, together with the municipalities, identified suitable land plots to build the houses. And they are suitable in ways that they are environmental sustainable, but also social sustainable, as we are settling people into existing communities. So we are now starting to engage qualified architectural companies to help us and the municipalities to come up with a sustainable design. And if I'm saying sustainable, that means, again, environmental sustainable, energy efficient according to what we call European standards, and social sustainable, because we want to avoid future conflicts. And hopefully, if everything goes well, and I'm very optimistic it will, we will possibly be able to start construction next year. So that, and aiming to possibly see the completion of the first units between 2023 and 2024.
Thank you. І ще одне питання.
And one more question to David and to the local authorities, again about those groups targeted audience. These are local residents and IDPs, right? So for the IDPs, according to what program will it be provided housing? Is that affordable housing program, or they will just give them the keys to their apartments? So according to what program housing would be provided to the IDPs and to the local residents? Well, let Andriy first answer this question, the mayor of Kramatorsk, then I will tell you about all the programs we have at the ministry, so that everyone would understand. Well, I understand the question is about signing this memorandum for this project and for these conditions that people will have. I think that I believe that we just have to give the floor to the YOM in that respect, because the cities, the municipalities, I'm sure, both Severodonetsk and Kramatorsk, are ready to give them everything that is necessary. Technical papers, all the necessary assistance related to the provision of electric power, infrastructure. We will take everything upon ourselves, but the very principle of implementing it and giving out the keys, as you have said, that will probably be written down in the programs, and probably it will be decided by the UAM, the ones who are funding this project. Probably they should approve us the conditions so that we can distribute the housing. That's my opinion. Thank you. Can I compliment? I will tell you everything now. First of all, as regards the Ministry of Reintegration of the temporary occupied territories, I want to remind you that the Ministry of the Reintegration in this project between the IOM and KfW is only part of the supervisory board. The Ministry for Integration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories, together with the KfW Bank, has its own program as to what we're now bringing back, the government program for providing credits to the IDPs, mortgage possibilities with only 3% annual. We have also received 25 million euros at the special fund of the government budget, national budget. We already have 450 million hryvnias for this program. Our ministry has signed an intergovernmental agreement with Germany. It has been ratified. In the nearest future, we'll start implementing this program. And I hope that starting January, we will start working within it. Second, I'd like to remind you that all the regions of Ukraine have a chance to receive government subventions to implement their infrastructure projects, and so that the local governments can purchase temporary housing for the IDPs, the program that is coordinated by our ministry. This program is realistic. It's been working for a number of years now, 3 years namely. It's co-funding, where 70% comes from the public budget and 30% from the local budgets. But unfortunately, for the past 3 years, this budget has only been 20 million hryvnias. That's why yesterday, when the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine submitted the draft budget for 2021 to the Parliament, the Ministry of Reintegration has made everything we could, and we hope that the parliamentary committees and the MPs, when they approve the budget for 2021, will understand that this need cannot be covered by 20 million hryvnias, as we have 1,450,000 IDPs who have come to the territory under government control. And we hope that this figure would be much higher than 20 million, maybe 100, maybe 150 million. Next year, and we have also submitted this to the draft budget, we hope that the committee, the budget committee of the Parliament, the MPs would approve, and the Parliament will support the new program of the Ministry for Integration, which is compensation for the destroyed houses. That's number 2. And one other thing I want to say. I just heard comments of our residents of Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk who said that everyone gets apartments, but not simple people. Let me remind you that for 2 years now, we've had a resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, 582, which says that there is a scoring system. And it's primarily pregnant women and families with many children, retired people and unemployed who participate in this program. And immediately since the very start, they already have 27 points in the scoring program. So we cannot say that the apartments are only given to the representatives of the authorities or of law enforcement. This is not correct today. Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions?
Shortly to add, for the tenants or beneficiaries, this project is not just targeting displaced people. We also have a portion of 20% for what we say host communities, or for community members who are from Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk. I think this is also thanks to KfW who considered this and saw that as a social sensitivity in this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. If there are no more questions, no more comments, then I believe that we have the time for a family picture by the project panel. Thank you very much, everyone, for cooperation. We very much hope that the International Organization for Migration will start implementing this project in the nearest days. And after this meeting and this press conference, both mayors of both cities would understand what the concept of it is going to be when the projects would be implemented and what the system will be to distribute the apartments. Thank you.